You're still watching the City of Lagos TV show, and welcome to the Commissioners platform where we speak with various honorable commissioners in the ministries in Lagos State. And of course, the most important objective here is to also verify, ascertain, and confirm to what extent are the various ministries under the able leadership of the honorable commissioners are working in tandem with the Themes Plus agenda of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. And of course, today we're going to be speaking with the honorable commissioner of a very strategic ministry. Considering the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos, fiscal planning and urban development is a major pillar in the Themes Plus agenda of Mr. Governor. And of course, Lagos wouldn't have achieved its status, recognized as the city of excellence, if not for very strategic, proactive and dynamic efforts to improve the physical development of Lagos State. And of course, today we're going to be speaking with the Honorable Commissioner for Fiscal Planning and Urban Development, Dr. Olumide Abiodun Oluyinka. Honorable Commissioner, sir, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
It's a pleasure.
Let's start on a more lighter note. This is a very critical ministry, and Lagosians will want to know who is actually the man behind this ministry. So can you give us a very brief, precise profile, a professional profile of yourself?
Like you rightly said, my name is Olumide Abiodun Oluyinka of the Bajula area family of Lagos. And I started my schooling from Holy Cross Primary School in Lagos to Methodist High School in Ibadan, then Yaba College of Technology, where I graduated as the very first best student in architecture. Then I proceeded to University of Ife, where I studied building engineering, masters at University of Lagos, construction technology, then construction management. Then I'm also a graduate of Lagos Business School, and top it up with a PhD with Atlantic International University in USA in engineering construction project management.
Now, what is the mandate, the vision and mission statement of the ministry? And of course, to what extent does it work in tandem with the Themes Plus agenda of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu?
The ministry is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring a well-coordinated design of the physical structure of the state, as well as the management part of it. And by extension, the Themes Plus agenda of the current administration in Lagos State, we come in under the M there now, which is very important. Everybody is coming into Lagos by way of wanting to do any investment. The first thing they probably need is the accommodation. So we ensure that the land in the states are well designed in terms of usage. Area to be marked for residential, for commercial, for industrial, as mixed. So we do all that, then follow it up by ensuring that people designs in line with those plans. And again, it's concluded also by ensuring that, which is the control part of it, that people eventually develop in line with what was approved.
Lagos is a larger percentage water. And of course, it is quite important to have a strategic master plan to continue to sustain the growth of Lagos. So what's the ministry's strategic master plan? And to what extent have you been able to actualize your set objectives?
Thank you very much. Before you can go into any endeavor in terms of physical development, there has to be a plan. And thank God that in Lagos, this activity is taken very, very seriously. I can say with all confidence that we are the best in the country in terms of defining our space by way of master plans. Of recent, we've done the Ikorodu Regional Master Plan, the Badagry Plan is also done, Alimosho, and even presently, Ibejuleki is under display. What that means is that towards the concluding part of the production of various plans, we have what we call the stakeholders' enlightenment and their reaction, whereby All the efforts put in by the consultants as well as the ministry, in addition to the various MDAs, they are all thrown open into the public for them to see and respond before it eventually comes out. So we've been doing very well in Lagos in terms of the production of all these points. Again, what one may probably want to take up is that one thing is to have the plan. Another thing is to see that are those plans implemented. And that has been a challenge which we've set out to correct.
When it has to do with trying to meet up with your strategic master plan, there's also the issue of compliance. Are Lagosians actually complying to the fiscal planning laws?
If I'm to rate it in terms of, on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of compliance, I would probably say something close to 7. It's in that range because I must admit that the level of awareness and education is slightly low. Our interaction so far with the populace is such that they are willing to do the right thing. So I will not want to sit down here and say that our people are bad in terms of compliance. No. We have a job to do in terms of educating them and enlightening them on the importance of why those plans are produced and why we need to comply with them. Yes.
Now, still talking about compliance, which of the agencies under the ministry that has been assigned that strategic role to ensure the level of compliance we're talking about?
It is not only the agencies under the ministry that are supposed to comply with the plans produced. For example, if we have a plan that has designated areas as, say for example, in terms of solving the waste problem of Lagos State, and you have a site mapped as waste collection and treatment site, that goes to Ministry of Environment and Water Resources. Now, when you talk of identification of physical road infrastructures, that goes to Works and Infrastructure. Now, when you also identify in terms of transportation problems, that goes to Ministry of Transportation. Those are directly. Now, for us here, the production of those plans, which is done by the Regional Master Plan Department. Of recent, we've just even created a new department from that department that will be saddled with the responsibility of ensuring the compliance, monitoring and compliance of those plans, which is by way of getting the various MDAs set up in terms of evaluating and executing those ones that are related to them. Now, the ones that are commonly to us, you have the development matters, which is concerned with large expanse of land in terms of layout approval. And the very common one, which people relate with almost on a daily basis, that's LASPA, in terms of getting the planning permit prior to their development, and also the control arm of which is LAPSCA, ensuring that what is approved for them is what they built on site. We also have the urban development that is mostly in charge of markets. They also enforce, because you may have a market being undertaken by local government. So this has to be developed in line with the plan and the structural plan for the states. Also, another agency that is springing up very fast under the ministry is LASPEMA, Lagos State Planning Environmental Monitoring Agency. Of course, we are going to change the name to LASISMA, which is Lagos State Informal Space Management Authority. You agree with me that when you have a new scheme being produced, you have what we call bounded land. Those are the lands that have beacons that you can identify. You also have some other lands that are not bounded. These are land that belongs to the government. Or, for example, there is an alignment for a road, and it's supposed to be 4-lane roads, 4 on both sides. For one reason or the other, maybe the government is not ready to do the 4. Maybe they are doing 2 now. But you must prepare those land for future. So this agency is responsible for the management of all those informal and incidental open spaces, pending the time that the government will be willing to use those land. If you drive around Alakpere on the express road, Natol Milan, you will see people planting vegetable. Those are what we call urban agriculture. It's vegetable they are planting. They help us to keep that plain clean, and at the same time, it's a useful venture because the vegetables they produce are being consumed by the people. So it contributes to the agricultural inputs of the state as well as the manpower in terms of employment. If you go to London or US, New York or wherever, they are special because of the use they put those incidental open spaces into. So, and that is what we want to replicate here, that all our informal open spaces should be put to, for example, you will have areas where you can have organizers. In fact, we already have now a collection of all the organizers in Lagos, and we are going to run it with an app that you are driving, you have a flat tire. On the app, you can call, and the nearest organizer to we attend to you. The same thing with newspaper vendors. These are activities that definitely must be on the road, but they have to be well defined and designed so that they don't constitute nuisance into the environment.
Last year, to be precise, the ministry held a Fiscal Planning and Urban Development Summit in Lagos. What are the major takeaways for the ministry from that summit, especially on the issue of the mega city agenda for Lagos?
Early last year, we visited the United Kingdom, where we had a robust collaboration with the London Bureau in terms of how they go about their own planning, from conception to implementation. We try to compare what is happening there with what we have in Lagos. And very surprisingly, there seems to be virtually no difference in terms of the physical law. Now, the challenge then was that the level of compliance and of those plans are extremely very low. So that was what led to us saying that, guys, we need to come back and see what can be done in terms of good. We produce plans, but these plans are not for joke. They are not for fun. They are supposed to impact directly on our lives. And for them to impact directly on life, it means there must have been some level of execution of those plans. Now, when we check here and we see that it's very, very low. Of course, the facts are not far-fetched because execution of plans are to be balanced with the funding from the state.
Okay.
And what we see in the Western world is that the plans now, in terms of execution, if I'm to rate it, I would probably say over 70 being executed by the private sectors, as against what we have here, where everything is entirely government. For us in Lagos State, like I used to say, we are condemned to work. We are condemned to do the right thing. And the ugly part of it is that as we keep improving, planning, and executing, more and more people from Nigeria keeps coming in. Because for you to move in from Ibadan to Lagos, from Bauchi to Lagos, Kano to Lagos, you don't need any visa. Once somebody calls you, hey, my brother, Lagos is sweet, the person picks a bag and he comes in there. That has an implication for us because it keeps putting pressure on the infrastructure that is planned. So which means we must continuously be planning. And the essence of that summit that you brought out is for us to look at, first, let the people understand the processes of the plan. The plan are not just documents made by government. They are documents from the people, and they are supposed to serve the people. And we've been getting response because right now, all the plans that we've done so far, we've thrown it open to the public. They can see reason why we say we want to do this. If you are telling them that in this area, you cannot build more than 6 floors, we will jointly sit down and they will understand why we are doing this. And even to us, those plans help us to know that, okay, as per the last plan, in this particular area, you have 50 transformers. The population then was 200,000. Now it has moved to 600,000. Obviously, without being a magician, we know that those transformers will not be able to cope. So, telling us indirectly that those that are responsible for energy should also sit up in terms of meeting up their plan of increasing the capacity. So that's the essence of the summit. And the way it's structured, it was done last year. The next one will come up next year. But however, this year we are going to sit down again because we already mapped out the implementation into plans. So we need to sit down again and say, okay, we plan to do this. To what extent have we gone? A way of reassessing ourselves.
Now, data, how reliable when it has to do with the database of the Ministry for Fiscal Planning, for urban regeneration, building, construction, and control in Lagos State?
Thank you very much. About a few weeks ago, we started the revision of our ODPs, operating development plans, and you cannot do that without having a very reasonable data. On a continuous basis, the level of compliance, the level of reaction from the populace, what is the total number of approvals that were granted? Physical site data are gathered, and that will enable us, which is exactly what we did. A revision is coming out in some few days now for Ikoyi and Victoria Island, where we are changing the approval order of some area in terms of the number of heights that can go. Because of recent, there are pictures of being circulated around in terms of the thinness of structures. And what has been the problem? You find the father bequeathing a property to the children. Maybe in the local palace, they say 3 legs, that is 3 families. Maybe the man has 3 wives. Now, the property is sitting on, let's say, 600 square meters. So, and for the fact that they couldn't agree, okay, no, let's cut my own. You now have a situation whereby the property sitting on 600 square meters is now shared into 3, roughly 200. And each now wanting to develop within that 200. That really, in terms of all the reasonable basic law of planning, it does not make sense. And what we're trying to do now is to come up with a total revision of, look, instead of you wanting to develop on a land of 200 square meters, a 3-story building, which really does not make sense. Because by law of pressure, it's like if a lady with their heel steps on your leg, the heel is very, very small. You feel the pressure more than if a man stepping on you. What that simply means in engineering is that the smaller the area, the more the pressure you exert into the floor, which means that in terms of stability, those buildings might not be too stable unless properly designed. And that may account for why you have, in all those areas, where you have building collapse. So what we're trying to do now is to encourage them that, okay, rather than you going on a very thin area, 2, 3, 4 families can come together and go vertically. And it could be shared now horizontally. A family can take 3 floors. If, for example, 3 families coming up and they develop 18 floors, each one of them can take 6 floors, which makes sense rather than squeezing themselves. And in terms of value, they will get more value for their investment. So these are things that we do fall out from that summit and the revision for the plans.
So, Honorable Commissioner, let's look at your achievements. I know since you came on board, very significant achievements, giant strides of the ministry since coming on board.
I came in there and I discovered that you really cannot influence any change, because whatever you want to do, it is human being that will execute them. And if you look at the factors for production, you have the 5 M's, the so-called 5 M's: money, machine, manpower, management. The only one that is trickish and difficult is man. Because, for example, if you have a farm and you think that your staff are not producing well, you now say, okay, I'll give them more money to produce well. It can turn the other way. So, having observed that, what I did was to focus on changing of the mindset in terms of value, what they should be looking at. The other focused attention was the summit that we did in terms of plant product. People are becoming aware now that, look, when the state government is saying that we should do this, it's not just enforcing laws on. It is something that actually we desire as people, letting them also know that they also have a part to play. All the plans we'll be rolling out now, they are documents. They are not government documents. They are people's documents. When we went to Badagry, we sat down with them. This is their means of life: waterborne, a fish and the likes. The best way to do it, you need to let them know. Badagry, everywhere in the world, if you go to Miami in the US, areas that are waterborne are revenue spinning. They are tourist attraction areas. So, and for you to do that kind of thing, the people themselves within that area, they must prepare themselves. We must elevate them to the status of understanding what we want to do. We went around on inspection around Ikoyi, and we noticed abnormal settlements where you have maybe there are security to those houses coming with a small kiosk a small kiosk turning into makeshift nylon and for people to see. You really cannot have that kind of thing in Ikoyi for God's sake. Right now, I may bold to say that application for planning permit, but that is the one that is very common to ordinary people. The request for permit in terms of timing now is very, very short. You can see the process, the charges, how they are worked out. You can see them clearly. And within 10 days, if there are no obstacle from your side, you get your approval. We are even working with land bureaus now to ensure that all the bottlenecks around land title are resolved, because for you to get approval for permits, the very first thing is the evidence that you are the owner of the land, which is a major challenge. Somebody will just approach your monile, you buy the land, and the person, the monile will just go to CMS, buy one slip of right receipt. I sold so, and sign. I mean, that cannot be evidence that you are the owner of it. There must be a root of title. On whose capacity is that receipt being issued? There must be a family, whether they have accession to that land. So they have to lay roots to that okay, I, as Alhaji Wale Fatai of so and so family, under the authority of the head of the family, we've sold this and this to. And last year also was getting the government to actually agree to amnesty. Because what I did when I got in there was to do an assessment of, I think we covered up to about 28 states in the country. That's the level of compliance to planning permit. And I discovered that Lagos one is very, very low. That is, the percentage of people, buildings that have approval in Lagos is very, very low. So we now went again to find out what are the reasons. Surprisingly, we discovered that a lot of people are willing to get this approval, but there are bottlenecks which we are already resolving. So that made us to approach the governor, who graciously granted us this amnesty period. Normally, if you've done your building without approval, you are supposed to be penalized very heavily, 4 times what you are supposed to pay. But we pleaded with the governor, who graciously agreed to waive this penalty. And there was a window from 1st of May 2024 to 31st of December. That's 7 months for people who have built their building 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, to bring them forth for approval. And the response was quite encouraging and huge.
Doctor, can you tell us the level of collaboration and synergy between your ministry and other ministries, most critically the EGIS? How has that synergy been, and what have you been able to achieve?
I would say I have a brother heading that arm of the ministry. That is the special advisor to the governor on EGIS and urban development, Dr. Olajide Abiodun Babatunde. Is a brother. It goes beyond just a colleague. In actual fact, the next phase of the activity of the ministry that we are working very aggressively on is the e-planning process, which is that you don't necessarily have to come and be carrying files everywhere. That from the comfort of your home or your offices, you can apply for your approval. And this is being worked on by the SA on EGIS and the urban development. That's the e-planning. There has been a very serious and smooth collaboration between the ministry and the SA EGIS. Again, we provide activity for the whole states. For example, infrastructure, who are responsible for the road. Of course, they will need the EGI because they will give us the status of the physical structure before the plans are done. And don't forget that the very, very important department in this ministry, which is RMD, really cannot function without a lot of input from EGIS, because they will provide us the topographical view of the area before plans are done in terms of land use, this for that. So we leverage very heavily on EGIS to give us all those details. Even of recent, we just solved the challenge with agric, because so many of land that are agric land have been encroached upon. Especially, there was a time I visited Ibejuleki, and we discovered that so much of the land there that are for agric are now taken over by people for estate development.
So, Honorable Commissioner, let's look at the issue of housing, which is a major challenge, looking at the ever-growing population in Lagos. How would you want to describe your efforts in this area, the dynamics of the housing challenge in the real estate sector, and looking at your achievements in this area?
From the plans that we are doing now, there are emphasis now on estate lands. In terms of ease of development, it comes out very easy for us rather than individual development. And if you look at virtually all the developed world now, there is a big shift from, which is still a major problem here. You find everybody wanting to build. No, it's not ideal like that. What we have in developed world is that you have developers coming in to develop those houses, which means that there should be more of estates development rather than individual development. And again, we cannot be talking of cost of building reducing if everybody wants to build their own individual houses, because there is advantage in what we call system building. System buildings help us to come up with mass building. If you go to Cairo and you can see massive mass building. If you want to buy or you rent, you live within the. When the time comes that you feel that maybe at retirement you need a country home, then you go to the countryside. But for the center CBD area, it is only for active people. You come home, you sleep, you wake up. So if you are really serious about solving housing problem in this country, people must understand, one, house ownership cannot and must not be for everybody. However, land also have a very serious impact to play. You cannot buy a land at 50 million and you say you want to put a building of 10 million on it. You understand? That is where the mass housing comes in. And people should be ready and must be ready to have a paradigm shift from wanting to own their own houses. You go to Banana Island on Ikoyi, you are buying a plot for 1 billion. Now, are you putting one dwelling family, 100 million house on a... It must be for certain class of people. We cannot be talking of people who need houses and you are talking of a land of 1 billion naira.
Dr. Olumide Abiodun Oluyinka has been our special guest on the Commissioner's platform, the Honorable Commissioner for Fiscal Planning and Urban Development. To a large extent, it's been quite informative and educative about the very significant efforts and initiatives and achievements of the ministry. Honorable Commissioner, let's look at human capacity building. For a ministry like this, you need very qualified, experienced workforce to meet up with best international practice. So what's the agenda in this area?
We are top loaded.
Okay.
Apart from the fact that the so-called Japa syndrome, a lot of staff, by way of seeking for greener pastures, have gone abroad. So we had serious acute shortage of staff at the middle and low level. So that led to my approaching the governor, explaining the situation to him, and he approved 100. So right now, they are all undergoing training, orientation. Continuous training for anybody here at the ministry, it's extremely important that they must be exposed. All the various departments, we must expose them both locally and internationally. I cannot imagine somebody will say, I'm a director in this ministry, and you cannot relate planning as it's being executed here, not only with other clients in Nigeria, but outside Nigeria, in Kenya, in Ghana, I don't want to go to very advanced world, Brazil. So that's all part of life.
What are the future projected plans to improve fiscal planning, urban regeneration of Lagos State to achieve a safe, secure, and progressive megacity?
We already have a plan for Lagos Island, for example, how it should look in the next 50 years' time. There is a plan that is ongoing now for the total regeneration of the whole of Adeniji Adele. You also notice that all the police barracks are all gone now in preparation for regeneration. So I mean, the plans are there, but the most important, like I said, is that the buy-in and understanding of the people. If they bought into those plans and they agreed with it, I mean, life will be easy for everybody, and in no time we'll get to well.
How will you describe Governor Sanwo-Olu's support and positive impact on your ministry?
I must confess that he's been very, very supportive to the ministry. The governor has been very supportive. You can see what happened during the summit. He's been very, very supportive with us.
So on a final note, Doctor, what's your word of assurance, encouragement to Lagosians and all key stakeholders in the fiscal planning and urban development space in Lagos?
We are actually partners, because what we as a Ministry of Fiscal Planning and Urban Development, what we do is to plan how the city should be. So it will be a great error and mistake if we neglect or don't get the buy-in of the developers. Once you alter the natural state of a land, that is development. And what that means is that you cannot and you must not lie with it, because whatever they want to do, let them come and open it up at the very early stage. They should take us as their partner. We are not here to make life difficult for everybody. We are partners in seeing Lagos development. Fellow Lagosians, mine is very simple because we are all together. I cannot do anything without the people. We are here working as a back end to the people. So my appeal is that this is a tax for every one of us. What we do here impacts directly on your life, and you should see us as partners in progress. From the moment I got in here, I run an open door. You don't need to know, you don't need any appointment. If you want to come and see the Commissioner for Fiscal and Urban Development, you are free to come. You will be listened to and your problem will be evaluated and resolved. But appeal again is that we should jointly see Lagos as one. And like we used to say, Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó, àjùmọ̀ṣe gbogbo wa ni o.
It's been a pleasure, sir, speaking with you, Dr. Olumide Abiodun Oluyinka, the Honorable Commissioner for Fiscal Planning and Urban Development. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. And we want to say kudos to your efforts and wish you all the best. The program will continue in a moment. Stay tuned.